Welcome to the Leadership Spark podcast, where we equip you to be the great leader your people deserve. This is Corey, and we're going to continue to talk about communication. Yesterday, we talked about the 4 C's of communication. Your team needs from you clarity. They need connection. They need contribution about themselves and understanding how they connect and how they contribute. And they need consistency from you. And if you use that framework, every time you communicate, your communication will improve. But today, what I want to talk about are what are the biggest lies that as leaders we fall for when communicating, or some of the biggest assumptions we make about communication that ultimately are invalid assumptions that hurt our ability to communicate. They hurt our ability to move our team forward. They can even hurt our credibility as a leader whenever we don't communicate effectively and well with our team. And it can create confusion. It can slow things down on your team. And ultimately, it can cause disruption within your business. And so what makes this even more challenging in the world that we live in is the disruptive technology of AI, because there's so many ways that we can communicate and people can get information today that's very different than it was 3 years ago. And then you even add in other technologies like collaboration tools, Slack, Teams, a lot of video conferencing, Zoom calls, team calls, and communication becomes more challenging because it's more than just being face-to-face with a person so that they can understand the nonverbals of how you're communicating as well. And so what I want to share with you are, I just sat down and came up with what I think are the 6 biggest assumptions, bad assumptions we make, or lies we believe about communicating that I just want to walk through with you. And these are things you want to avoid. And if you use the 4C framework, it will help you avoid these 6 things. Okay, number 1, we say to ourselves, I communicated it once and they'll get it. And so we talked about in the 4 C's, consistency, communicating over and over is imperative if you want your message to stick. But we can often assume, and I assume all of these are things that I do, that if I said it once, then they got it. All I have to do is communicate it once and they'll get it and they'll do exactly what I want them to do, and I will get the outcome that I want from communicating. Bad assumption. Don't make that assumption. Number 2, we assume that everyone receives communication or engages in communication the same way. And so we believe that if I just communicate from a style perspective or message or medium perspective, that everybody's going to hear the same thing in the exact same way. Well, if you've listened to this podcast, you know that everybody doesn't view the world the same way that I do or that you do. And that means that people are unique in how they like to be communicated with and how they communicate. And as a leader, I have to be a scientist in a lot of ways to try to understand how people want to be communicated. And it's my job to adapt how I communicate to them. So it's a bad assumption to assume that everyone communicates exactly the same way and one method or one methodology or one style is going to serve its purpose in every case. And that's not a good assumption. Third assumption is that we assume clarity is obvious, and we think things like they don't need me to communicate. They can figure it out. It's clear. Well, it's not always clear. And if we assume clarity is obvious, we're going to confuse people and we will lose. Number 4, my tone and intent are obvious, that people are going to interpret my tone when I communicate or the intent that I have when I communicate because it's so obvious. And the reality is it's not. And your tone and your intent, your tone, people are going to experience. Your intent may be something that you only understand. People see your actions, you see your intent. And so don't just assume that your tone and intent are obvious. Think about the way that you're communicating, the tone that you're using, and the intent that you have when you communicate. Number 4, we assume silence means agreement. We're in a meeting, we communicate, however big the meeting is, and people don't talk. They don't give feedback. And we assume as a leader, I must have done a great job communicating because silence equals agreement. And that is not the case at all, because that could drive meetings after the meetings where people are communicating their disagreement. And so don't assume that. Don't assume that silence is agreement. Create an environment to where you try to pull feedback out of people so that you can get the best idea and get the feedback you need so that you can discern clarity. And then number 6 is that we assume, hey, if there's a problem, then my team would tell me. If there's a problem out there, my team would tell me. And we sit back as a leader. That's a bad assumption. We have to go and be engaged so that we can discern the problem. And here's the thing about leadership: the more responsibility that you get and you take, the less the communication flows to you. And so you have to be proactive. And so these are 6 assumptions that are bad assumptions or lies that we believe about communication that we want to avoid. And so do a self-audit, make sure that none of these 6 are showing up in your communication leadership.